This is the astonishing true story of how a single person sold paintings valued at millions of dollars to the art world. Yet no one suspected that every painting was a forgery. The tale opens in 1995. A German art collector re-examines a painting he purchased a decade ago. The artwork is titled Aragon and Mara. It is believed to be the work of Johannes Malzen, a renowned German expressionist painter. But for some reason, the collector begins to doubt the painting's authenticity. Thus, he seeks a professional verdict and submits the painting to scientific analysis. Shortly thereafter, the test results come back and confirm his doubts about the painting's authenticity. The painting has been exposed as a forgery. Outraged by the deception, the collector starts pursuing other Malzen paintings that changed hands during that same period. There was a piece once bought by Malzen's widow, and another acquired by a Berlin gallery owner. It turns out that both works are forgeries. The final blow comes from a Malzen painting, touted as having been painted in 1920. However, experts reveal that the pigment used in the painting wasn't available until 1957, 37 years after the work's claimed origin date. Armed with the full evidence, the collector goes to the police to recount everything he has discovered. An official inquiry is opened to uncover the identity of the person responsible for forging the paintings. The investigation picked up pace when authorities discovered that a single Berlin-based art dealer had sold all the forged paintings. Under interrogation, the police press him for details about where the counterfeit paintings came from. The dealer then guides investigators to the previous link in the chain, naming the person who sold him the counterfeit paintings. Even with their best efforts, investigators cannot locate the source. Even if they could chase the lead, it would be moot, since the statute of limitations for the crime has already expired. Years slipped by, and the forger walked away unpunished. Little do the police know that these fakes are only the tip of a much larger iceberg. In fact, they were closing in on exposing one of the largest art fraud scandals in modern history. Yet the man at the center of it all has vanished just beyond their grasp. While Berlin's police bureau wraps up the investigation into the counterfeit Malzen paintings, about 300 miles away in Venn, Germany, a man sits in his studio, poised to start a fresh masterpiece. Artist Wolfgang Belracki is adding the final touches to a painting titled Mädchen mit Swan, Girl with Swan. The canvas he's painting on is a genuine, aged antique. It was the old canvas he had found at a flea market. Yet what he paints onto the blank canvas isn't genuine. When the moment comes to sign the work, he inks Hinrich Kenden on the canvas instead of his own name, presenting it as the handiwork of another German expressionist from the same era as Johannes Malzen. Having completed his part, Wolfgang calls his wife Helena into the studio, where she steadies herself for their next move. She carries the painting to an art dealer affiliated with Christie's, the renowned London auction house. In the art world, Christie's and Sotheby's are the two leading venues for the most coveted and expensive artworks, with paintings frequently selling for millions or even hundreds of millions. The dealer studies the counterfeit painting, visibly impressed by its convincing workmanship. Although the painting looks authentic, questions linger about its origin and how Helena came to possess such a rare find. She proceeds to spin a story to cover it. She claims the painting can be traced back to Alfred Fleckham, an art dealer who operated during World War II. Alfred Schlechtime isn't fictional. He's a real figure from the World War II era art trade. Alfred Schlechtime was a real person, but Helena had no genuine connection to him. Once the Nazi regime took power in Germany, they began seizing artworks they labeled as degenerate. They singled out modern art above all, because those works carried ideas the Nazis refused to tolerate. It was known for defying conventional norms and challenging established traditions. The Nazis specifically targeted Jewish artists and art collectors. Alfred Fleckheim was a leading art dealer, and he was Jewish. The Nazis took control of several galleries he owned and confiscated all of his artworks. Ultimately, Fleckheim was forced to flee Germany. The exact number of paintings from his collection that were lost or destroyed remains unknown. The details about Alfred Fleckheim are accurate and well documented, but the deceit has begun. According to Helena, before any of Fleckheim's galleries could be seized, he hid many of the paintings with her grandfather, Vanaye, who managed to conceal the collection from the plundering Nazis. Decades later, Helena and her sister Jeanette have inherited the entire collection from their grandfather. The Christie's dealer is captivated by the story and eagerly purchases her painting, Girl with Swan, for about £67,000, roughly $100,000. When the painting goes up for auction, expert Andrea Furman confirms its authenticity, lending credibility not only to this piece, but to Helena's grandfather's entire collection. The newly discovered paintings have been named the Jäger Collection. If Wolfgang and Helena sold additional paintings from the collection, they could amass a staggering fortune. The tale proved to be truly wonderful. Pieces once believed destroyed by the Nazis have been recovered and secured in a safe place. A convincing backstory was one factor in Wolfgang and Helena's success. The other factor was that Wolfgang devised a clever method for forging artworks. The art world holds numerous celebrated paintings that have vanished. Instead of duplicating famous missing works, Wolfgang creates wholly original paintings. He creates paintings that never existed to begin with and passes them off as groundbreaking masterpieces. Wolfgang avoids artists who would attract the sharpest scrutiny, such as Picasso or Van Gogh, and instead creates paintings attributed to artists with massive catalogs, like Heinrich Campendon and Max Ernst. Earlier, Wolfgang mainly sold his paintings at flea markets and through small-time art dealers, with some help from his friend Otto Schulte-Kellinghaus. Now that the Jäger collection has been formally recognized as genuine by the art establishment, a whole new world of possibilities has unfolded. Just as he's about to begin churning out more forgeries, the past threatens to catch up with him. Wolfgang learns that authorities are probing his counterfeit Molson paintings. As noted earlier, the police nearly linked him to the case. Without delay, Wolfgang and Helena hurriedly pack a motorhome with as much as they can, relocating their family from Germany to southern France. Although the timing of their disappearance seems suspect, they still deny any suggestion that they were on the run. Instead, they argue that their daughter's chronic illness requires a change of scenery. Even after settling in France, Wolfgang continues to churn out paintings for the art world. Whenever he finishes another painting, his wife Helena, her sister Jeanette, or Wolfgang's friend Otto will take it to different auction houses. There, they face few questions about the artwork's authenticity, since experts have since authenticated many of the earlier forgeries. Andrea Furman has included several of Wolfgang's paintings in her Campendon catalog, and Verbis, a leading expert on Max Ernst, has also verified 7 of the works as forgeries. With expert validation behind them, the Jäger collection earns widespread acceptance in the art world, and Wolfgang and his wife begin to amass a fortune as the prices of their paintings steadily rise. One of his counterfeit works sells to a famous actor for $860,000, while a forged Marx painting, goes to a French magazine publisher. For $7 million, the Belrakis built an efficient, well-oiled system for creating the artworks, promoting them to the art world, and ultimately selling them. Concerning the Belrakis, despite their backstory, lingering questions continue to surround the enigmatic JA collection. Some buyers start demanding documentation to verify the collection's provenance, or proof of Vanajah's ties to Alfred Flechtime. Many wanted to buy into the narrative, but only solid proof could truly clinch the deal. Thus, Wolfgang and Helena devise a simple, straightforward plan. Wolfgang produces prints of several paintings that have already been sold. Next, Wolfgang frames the sold prints and hangs them on the kitchen wall. Then Helena sits at an old kitchen table, dressed in her grandmother Josefina Jürger's clothing, posing in front of the paintings. Then Wang photographs her with a vintage camera, deliberately keeping the shot slightly out of focus to conceal that the woman in the image is actually Elena. Then Wolfgang prints the photograph onto old, pre-war photographic paper. And here is the final result: a staged family portrait that looks like it belongs to the 1930s, but was actually photographed in the 1990s. The left-hand painting in the photo is a fake that imitates Fernand Léger. The portrait on the right is a forgery, pretending to be Max Ernst. The staged photograph eliminates any remaining doubts about the authenticity of the Gera collection, allowing Wolfgang to continue producing more paintings that Helena, Jeanette, and Otto will sell. As the Belris continue to amass a fortune at £80,000, £82,000, and £84,000. But that held true only until 2006, when everything began to change. Everything begins with yet another Hinrichs Kompendong forgery, as Wolfgang applies the finishing touches to a painting he calls Red Picture with Horses. The painting's title is authentic, but the artwork itself has vanished through the ages. Having finished his imagined rendering of how the painting should appear, he sets out to pass it off as authentic. This time, Jeanette delivers the painting to a prestigious gallery, and Red Picture with Horses proves to be a hit. The Maltese company, Trestco, clinched the winning bid for the painting, paying more than $3 million. Everything has seemed routine so far, until the company asks for a certificate of authenticity, a document that naturally does not exist. Since the auction house cannot provide a certificate, Trestco arranges its own independent analysis of the painting and is connected with Andrea Firmenich, the same connoisseur who had previously been fooled by Wolfgang's forgeries. With such a large sum on the line, Firmin takes extra precautions to verify that the painting is truly genuine. She begins with what passes for proof: a label affixed to the painting. A label on the back claims the painting is from the Alfred Flechtime collection. A small label is affixed to the back of the painting. The painting bears Henrik Kompendong's signature, with a sketched likeness of Flechtime beneath, serving as the seal of his collection. Firmenich then phones Ralph Jentsch, an expert on Alfred Flechtime's life, to help verify whether the label is authentic. The moment Jens spots the label, he is bewildered that anyone could mistake it for genuine. Having encountered authentic Flechtime labels before, he can tell this one, with its goofy caricature, is a clear fake. He is convinced and informs Firmin that the label is a forgery. Having realized she's on the verge of proving that Red Picture with Horses is a forgery, Firmin decides to send the actual painting for scientific analysis. The findings are just as damning, a grim reminder that history is repeating itself. During the 1990s probe into the forged Molson paintings, German investigators discovered that a pigment used in the forgeries wasn't even available at the time the works were supposedly created. And again, in 2006, scientific analysis reveals that this painting also contains titanium white, a pigment that did not exist when the painting was supposedly created. Over the years to come, the fragile house of cards finally topples. Firmenich returns to Testico, the company that purchased the painting, bearing her findings. Almost immediately, a civil suit is filed to recover the $3 million from the auction house. Meanwhile, Ralph Fenn combs the gallery wall for more paintings that carry the same back label. Within 2 weeks, he uncovers 15 paintings, all supposedly from the Jurger collection bearing the fake Flecktime label. Under closer scrutiny, the story Helena once told begins to crumble. It turns out Vanna Jaeger was only a teenager when Flecktime's gallery was seized. Moreover, Jurger later joined the Nazi Party, making any friendship with a Jewish man like Flecktime seem highly unlikely. As the mounting fraud evidence grows, Ralph Jentsch takes his findings to the German police, and a criminal investigation is opened. During the investigation, police uncover that the auction house obtained red picture with horses through Jeanette. They also learned that Helena, her sister, had a history of delivering paintings. They then begin wiretapping Helena's and Jeanette's phones, and for the first time, uncover the existence of Wolfgang, realizing he's at the center of these forged paintings. With ample evidence gathered, the German police are prepared to move against Wolfgang and Helena's estate. Because the site is in France, they must secure cooperation from French authorities. However, the French court is on holiday, leaving the case stalled with no officials available to move it forward. Nevertheless, German police uncovered that Wolfgang and Helena also own property in Germany, in the city of Freiburg. They uncover a sprawling, multi-story modern villa perched on a hillside. Not long afterward, Wolfgang and Helena set off for the hillside villa. Armed police stop their car and order Wolfgang and Helena to step out into the rain. Wolfgang and Helena are arrested, leaving their children behind and bewildered by what's happening. Police arrest Helena's sister Jeanette and Otto, the other accomplice, and escort them to a patrol car as bystanders watch. Even with mounting evidence against Wolfgang and his cohorts, one crucial issue remained. The court could not conclusively prove that Wolfgang was the artist behind the counterfeit paintings. To avoid risking a trial, both sides reached a plea agreement. All 4 defendants pled guilty to fraud charges tied to 14 forged paintings. Experts believe the true number of forged paintings is far higher, with hundreds still undiscovered. Wolfgang received a 6-year prison sentence. Helena and Otto were each sentenced to 4 years, while Jeanette received a suspended sentence. All 4 will serve their sentences in an open prison, allowing them to work during the day on weekdays and return to custody each night. Having served his sentence and been released on early parole, Wolfgang re-enters society with a mixed reputation. Some people regard him as a hero for pulling back the curtain on the art world and proving many so-called experts are merely fake and shallow. Others argue that his fraud wasn't about making a statement, but was a self-serving scheme to enrich himself. Today, the infamy surrounding Wolfgang's years as an art forger keeps him firmly in the public eye. The things you're doing are despicable. You're stealing from the geniuses who spent years perfecting their styles. Your interest in that painting hinged entirely on whether you believed it was by a renowned artist. The media buzz around him transformed him into a legitimately recognized artist in his own right. Guang keeps painting. Now Wolfgang signs his paintings with his real name, and he seems to relish his newfound fame. Wolfgang's life has all the elements you'd expect in a great story. Someone with exceptional talent, and a partner who stood by him through it all. The Two of Tea. Hemmer's secretly plotting one of the era's most audacious art world hoaxes. It's a saga of romance and misdeeds, a chronicle of uncovering the art world's secrets while escaping consequences for years. Even after they were finally caught, the ending wasn't a spectacular downfall. They've served their sentence, and today they paint freely, no longer needing to hide. If you're hoping for a neat personal growth arc, from trickster to something better, you won't find it here. Because it's impossible to say. Did Wolfgang expose the greed behind the art world, or did he simply prey on it to satisfy his own greed?